a full makeout session, that's all.
Yeah.
It had been years since the Brown family sat together in one room, and even longer since they did it with genuine joy. But this Christmas felt different. There were no cameras, no producers, no lights or fake smiles. Just one simple message sent from Kody's phone. Family Christmas gathering. Flagstaff. December 23rd. Please come. Short. Strange. Yet somehow, hopeful. Christine saw it first. She stared at the message for nearly half an hour before showing it to David. Do you think it's a trap? She asked, half joking. He shrugged. Maybe. But if it is, at least you'll see your girls again. That's what matters. Janelle saw it next, forwarded by Madison. Mom, he's actually doing it. Are you going? Janelle didn't answer. She'd promised herself she'd never go back to Flagstaff. But the thought of another Christmas without her kids pulled harder than her anger ever could. Meri saw it last. She wasn't even sure she was still part of the group chat. When it popped up while she was journaling, she sighed and whispered to herself, why now? Why this year? Because this wasn't just a reunion. It was a test. A reset. And no one knew what Kody had planned. Robyn already knew. She was in the kitchen, arranging pine garland, when Kody walked in holding 2 mugs of cider and a manila envelope. It's time, he said softly. They'll meet her. Robyn's face tightened. Are you sure this is the right time? They deserve to know before the year ends, Kody replied. Some news is best delivered in silence, but Kody never learned how to stay quiet. Across the country, the older kids were already booking flights and borrowing Christmas sweaters. Gwendolyn rolled her eyes in a group chat. Can't wait to awkwardly stand in a room filled with 16 unsaid apologies. Logan replied with one word. Brave. Michael T added, is he actually cooking, or are we pretending the catered food is homemade again? Behind the jokes, everyone felt the same thing. The weight of what this meant. When the day finally came, Flagstaff was bright but cold. No snow, just empty roads and a quiet wind. One by one, they arrived. Christine and David, their arms full of wrapped gifts. Janelle carrying her homemade fudge. Meri dressed in black, as if mourning something no one had buried yet. Robyn greeted them with a soft, practiced smile. She wore a red dress and a gold necklace that read faith. Kody stood by the fireplace, hands behind his back, eyes flicking toward the hallway. That's when they noticed the extra chair. Empty. Decorated. Placed perfectly in the center, where the wives used to sit together. Christine's eyes narrowed. Janelle's jaw tightened. Meri tilted her head, reading the space like a crime scene. David leaned toward Christine and whispered, are we expecting a ghost? Then came the sound of footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. A woman appeared from the hallway wearing forest green. She was tall, elegant, unfamiliar, and yet not entirely a stranger. Kody stepped forward. This is Kira, he said. The room froze. Some of you know her. Some of you don't. But I've asked her to join us for Christmas because I believe she's part of my future. No one spoke. No one even breathed. Christine set her mug down. Meri took half a step back. Janelle's voice broke the silence. You invited us here to meet your new wife? Kody raised his hands, defensive. She's not my wife. Not yet, Janelle said flatly. Meri's voice followed. Then what is this? A trial run? When you stop belonging to a family, you don't get to introduce someone else like you still do. Savannah looked down at her plate. Michael T shifted uncomfortably. Logan whispered something to his fiancée and slipped out quietly. David stood behind Christine, one hand on her shoulder. He didn't say a word, he didn't need to. His silence was its own kind of strength. Christine turned to Kody. You called us all here for Christmas. And somehow, you made it about you. Kody's voice tightened. It's not about her. It's about moving forward. About healing. Janelle scoffed. You don't heal by replacing what you broke. You heal by admitting that you broke it. Kira finally stepped forward. Her voice was soft but steady. I'm not here to replace anyone. I was invited. And somehow, that made it worse. Because Kody hadn't just invited her to a gathering, he had extended an invitation to a role that was no longer his to offer. Christine sat down slowly, deliberately. "Let's eat," she said quietly. "We came for Christmas, not casting." Kira took the empty chair, the one no one else dared to claim. For a moment, no one moved. Then Robyn, always the peacemaker, picked up a fork and forced a smile. "I made the potatoes. Same recipe as last year." Meri pushed the food around her plate without taking a bite. Janelle's eyes never left Kody. Around the table, the children watched every move, every word, quietly storing the moment away for the therapy sessions they'd need someday. Because Christmas wasn't supposed to feel like court. Yet there they were, silently deciding the fate of a stranger who had been given the most sacred chair at the table. The room wasn't silent, but it wasn't alive either. Forks clinked. Glasses shifted. A few brave attempts at small talk fizzled before they began. But the real noise wasn't in the air, it was in the glances. The half-smiles. The unspoken questions that hung between the people who once called each other family. Christine excused herself first. She stood, folded her napkin, and walked out of the room as if she wasn't leaving, just catching her breath. But Janelle saw the look on her face. She always did. That familiar expression Christine wore right before she broke. David rose slightly, ready to follow, but Christine held up her hand. "Just give me a minute." She stepped into the hallway lined with old family photos. Vegas. The kids. Robyn pregnant. Kody wearing the oversized belt buckle he once thought made him look like a rancher. She stopped in front of one picture and stared. All of them smiling. All of them pretending. Then came footsteps behind her. She didn't have to turn. "Kody," she said before he even spoke. "I just wanted to explain." "Don't," she cut him off. He hesitated. "You knew this day would come. I'm not going to stay alone forever." Christine turned slowly. "I didn't come here to police your love life. I came here for our kids. For the grandkids. For Christmas. Not for her. You can't rewrite history just because the ink dried on your version of it." "She deserves a chance," Kody said quietly. "You got yours." Christine's voice lowered. "I didn't replace anyone, Kody. I left you. That's not the same thing. You brought her in like a new chapter without ever closing the last one." Kody exhaled, frustrated. "You're just upset because I'm moving on." "No," Christine snapped. "I'm upset because you used family as a prop. You didn't invite us to heal, you invited us to watch you perform closure." He looked wounded. "She's not here to control anyone. She's not like, don't," Christine said sharply. "Don't finish that sentence." For a long moment, they stood in silence. From the other room came the faint sound of laughter, forced, hollow. Maybe Mykelti was trying to break the tension. Maybe Robyn was playing hostess again. Christine's voice softened. "You were supposed to be my family, not my gatekeeper." She turned and walked away before he could answer. Back at the table, Janelle leaned toward Meri. She left. Meri didn't look up. She went to breathe. "Good," Janelle muttered. "Because if she doesn't say it, I will." Robyn glanced at them but said nothing. Then it happened. The sound that cracked the quiet wider than any argument. A child's voice. "Little Avalon. Why is that lady sitting in my grandma's chair?" Kira froze. Christine re-entered at that exact moment. She heard it. Everyone did. And no one answered. Because there was no answer. Later that evening, the house was quiet again, but this time, it was the kind of quiet that comes after something breaks. The plates were cleared. The kids had escaped to the den with popcorn and board games. Kira had gone upstairs, claiming exhaustion. Christine sat outside on the patio with Savannah and Mykelti, wrapped in a thick shawl and heavier silence. Janelle stood in the kitchen, drying the same glass over and over. Kody watched her from across the room. Robyn was on the phone in the hallway, whispering urgently. Meri had disappeared somewhere between dessert and disappointment. Kody finally walked over to Janelle, like he used to, expecting warmth. You still do that thing with the towel, he said gently. You always redry things. She looked up at him. And you still do that thing where you think small talk erases big problems. He sighed. We need to talk about the land. I know, she said calmly. You're selling it, aren't you? It's complicated. No, Janelle replied. It's not. Her voice stayed even, but her eyes burned. You brought her here to frame it like a new beginning. But the moment I saw that folder by the cider, I knew this wasn't a Christmas party. It was closure for you. Kody tried to interrupt, but she kept going. Some people wrap gifts with bows. You wrap yours in legal documents. He swallowed hard. We've been holding on to that land for too long. It's time to move forward. It's time to move forward, Kody said again. There's no reason to drag it out. Janelle raised her eyebrows. Drag it out? You mean the land we fought for? The property we split 6 ways while Christine gave up her share and Meri got shut out? You call that dragging it out? It's not a family anymore, Kody said firmly. Exactly, she replied. Which is why I want my share in writing. In cash. I want out clean. Kody looked genuinely hurt. That's not what I expected from you. No, Janelle said quietly. It's not what you remember of me. But it's exactly who I am now. The silence between them was thick, familiar. Once, that silence had ended in compromise. Not this time. I'll get a lawyer, she said finally. I want it done before spring. And from behind them, a new voice cut through the tension. She already has one. It was Robyn. She stood in the doorway, phone in hand, her eyes tired. Janelle's not bluffing, Robyn continued. She called me 2 weeks ago. She wanted me to sign off on my share to make the sale easier. But I didn't. Kody blinked. You didn't? Robyn stepped forward. No. Because I knew you'd do this. Turn dinner into a deal. Bring a stranger into our circle. Try to force closure while the rest of us are still choking on the dust. You agreed with me, Kody hissed. I agreed with the dream, she snapped back. This, she gestured around the room, this is betrayal wrapped in Christmas garland. Janelle stared at her, stunned. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure what I wanted, Robyn admitted. But I am now. I want you and Christine and Meri to be free. If that makes me the villain in Kody's new fairy tale, so be it. But I won't sign away your legacy. Kody's expression shifted, confusion, anger, and fear all at once. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. Then came the sound of footsteps on the stairs. Kira appeared again, hair down, eyes sharp, holding an envelope. I think I grabbed the wrong folder, she said. This one has deed copies and a prenup. Everyone froze. Christine stood slowly. Janelle dropped the towel. Robyn whispered, barely audible, he married her. The silence that followed hit harder than any scream could. The word married lingered in the air like smoke from a fire no one saw coming, but everyone had smelled it long before tonight. Kody's face drained of color. He didn't speak. He didn't move. Kira looked around nervously. I didn't know this was private. Meri stood from the corner. You brought a prenup to Christmas dinner. Kody stammered. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Janelle demanded. A placeholder? An audition? Robyn took 2 steps back. Did you marry her without telling us? No, Kody said too quickly. Not legally. Not yet. It's an agreement. A promise. Christine's voice was calm but sharp. Like the promises you gave us? Because those didn't need contracts. Just faith. When a man starts using paperwork instead of trust, it says a lot about the promises he never meant to keep. Kira stepped forward, trembling. I didn't come here to replace anyone. I came because I was told you were ready. That this was about healing. Janelle asked, did he tell you about the land? Kira nodded. He said it was being sold. That it was his to settle. Robyn laughed softly, a bitter, tired sound. He made promises with his mouth that didn't match the names on the deeds. Kody raised his hands like a man trying to stop a storm. I was trying to make it right. Christine cut him off. No. You were trying to start over by pretending there was nothing left to clean up. You used Christmas as a distraction. You used her as an announcement. David, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was calm, steady. It's not the marriage that's the problem. It's the method. Everyone turned toward him. You could have introduced her as your friend, he said. You could have spoken to your ex-wives privately. You could have sat down with your kids. But instead, you brought her here like a surprise gift and expected applause. That's not how healing works, Kody. That's manipulation. The room fell silent. Kody's shoulders slumped. The man who once led 4 women, 16 children, and 1 million viewers now looked like someone who didn't recognize his own story. Kira placed the folder on the table. I'm not staying, she said quietly. No, Christine replied softly. You don't have to leave. But you do need to understand what you walked into. Kira met her eyes. Then tell me. Christine turned to Robyn. You first. Robyn looked startled. Why me? Because you stayed, Christine said. You saw everything. You made choices we didn't understand. Maybe now's the time to explain them. Robyn hesitated, then nodded. Her voice shook slightly as she spoke. I stayed because I was afraid, she said. Afraid that if I left, everything would fall apart. Afraid I'd be blamed. Afraid I'd lose him and still not have a family. But the truth is, I haven't had one in years. She looked at Kody. Not really. Kody opened his mouth, but no words came out. He closed it again, staring at the floor. Christine leaned forward, her voice lower now. Robyn, do you still love him? Robyn looked at her, then at Kody, and said the most surprising thing of the night. I don't know. When she said those 3 words, the room didn't explode, it cracked. Like old ice under pressure. Like the walls of a house shifting after too many winters. Just a small, fragile sound of something giving way. Christine didn't smile or gloat. She just looked down at her hands and whispered softly, finally. Janelle leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. Meri's eyes flickered with something close to relief. Because as much as they had resented Robyn over the years, deep down they all knew, she wasn't the problem. She was just the last one still holding the pieces. And now, even she was setting them down. Kody looked lost, like a man whose map had just disappeared. No coordinates. No plan. Just the realization that every road he once walked now led nowhere. Kira reached for her coat. I didn't mean to make this worse, she said softly. You didn't, Christine replied. You just pulled the sheet off something that was already dead. Sometimes the hardest truth isn't that something ended, it's realizing it ended a long time ago, and no one had the courage to admit it. Then, from the corner, Gwen stood up. She'd been silent the whole time, her phone face down, her expression unreadable. Okay, she said, loud enough to break the tension. Everyone turned. You guys always do this. You have your big dramatic moments, drop your truth bombs, cry, and walk away like the kids aren't even here. Like we're not in the room. Like we're not part of the wreckage. Christine tried to speak, but Gwen held up her hand. No, I'm not mad. I'm just done pretending we don't get a say. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to vote. Kody blinked. Vote? Yeah, Gwen said. Not on the land, not on your new wife, not even on forgiveness. We're voting on whether we keep doing this polite, fake version of a family where everyone smiles and pretends nothing's broken. David nodded slightly. She's not wrong. Janelle crossed her arms. So what's the vote? Simple, Gwen said. Do we stop pretending and start being honest, even if it hurts? Or do we keep showing up every year to watch the same wound reopen? Everyone looked at each other. Kody looked like he might argue, but Robyn nodded. Let's vote. When the children start asking for accountability, it's already too late to rewrite the story. Gwen took a deep breath. Raise your hand if you want the truth, always. No more spin, no more quiet loyalty. Just truth. Christine raised her hand first. Then Janelle. Then Robyn, hesitant but sincere. Meri stared at her lap for a long moment before raising hers too. Even David lifted his hand. Only Kody sat still. "You're the only one not voting," Christine said. Cody's voice was quiet. "Because I don't know what truth looks like anymore." Gwen smiled sadly. "That's okay. We'll help you find it." For a second, it felt like the air might finally soften. Maybe this was the start of something new. But then Kira stepped forward. "I need to say something." Everyone turned to her. "I didn't know he was still tangled in all of this," she said. "I thought I was walking into a man who'd moved on. But what I found was someone still reliving the same past. I don't want to be the next version of someone else's mistake." Kody turned sharply. "You're not," but Kira stopped him with one look. "I'm leaving. Not because I'm not welcome, but because I'm not blind." She turned to the women. "Thank you for showing me what loyalty should look like. I hope one day I find it clean." And then she walked out. The door closed softly behind her, but the sound echoed like a slammed door. It was final. The kind of sound that ends a chapter that's been dragging too long. Kody stood motionless near the fireplace. His arms hung limp at his sides, his mouth open like he wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Meri, who had been sitting quietly by the bookshelf, finally spoke. "Kody," she said gently. "You can cry. You won't win us back, but you can cry." He didn't move. Janelle poured herself a glass of wine, then one for Christine, and sat back down like nothing else was left to say, but something was. Something always is right before everything breaks for good. Cody's chest rose once, then again. Not the way it used to on camera. This wasn't for show. His shoulders shook. His hands trembled. And then, without looking at anyone, he whispered, "I didn't want to be alone." When a man who controlled everything finally loses control, what's left is the only version of him that's real. No one said a word. Christine, who had carried years of anger, just watched him. Not with hatred, not with satisfaction, just quiet understanding. The man in front of her wasn't the one she fought. He was the one she'd always known was hiding underneath all that pride. Cody's voice cracked. "I tried to build something. I tried to give you a place where no one would leave. I meant it." Janelle took a slow sip of her wine. "You built it for yourself," she said calmly. Christine added softly, "And we stayed until we couldn't anymore." "I loved you all," Kody said, louder now. "I still do." Meri's voice cut through. "But not the way we needed, Kody. You knew that. That's why you clung to Robyn. Because you felt her slipping, too. And now you're just a man trying to bury grief by replacing it." That hit him hard. He stumbled back, steadying himself against the fireplace mantel, like the room had shifted under his feet. For the first time, no one rushed to steady him. No one reached to comfort him. Meri stood up. Her voice was steady. "I stayed too long, hoping for a version of you that never existed. A man who could carry the family without needing to be its center. But now I see, it wasn't grief that broke you. It was pride. Some men break from pressure. Others break from reflection. Kody broke when no one needed him anymore." By now, even the kids were silent. The air felt heavy, not dangerous, just sad. Like the moment you realize the party ended hours ago but you're still sitting in the dark. Cody's voice trembled. "What do I do now?" Janelle raised her glass. "Whatever you want," she said. Christine added, "Just do it away from us." Meri stepped toward the door. "You asked what breaks a man like you. Nothing. You don't break. You just deteriorate. Piece by piece, under the weight of your own expectations." She grabbed her coat. Janelle followed. Then Robyn. Christine turned to David. "Let's go." And just like that, they left. Kody stood alone by the fireplace in a room filled with empty chairs, fading decorations, and a silence that finally matched his reality. The next morning, Flagstaff was still. The air had softened, the wind was calm, and snow finally began to fall. Inside the house, Kody sat alone at the dining table. The extra chair still stood in the center, decorated, untouched, empty. But now, it didn't feel like a placeholder. It felt like a gravestone. Across town, Christine loaded the last of her bags into David's car. Her daughters were inside, laughing about the cinnamon rolls Robyn had insisted on serving. But Christine wasn't thinking about pastries. She was thinking about peace. As they pulled away, she said softly, "You know what the hardest part of last night was?" David glanced over. "What?" "Realizing I was never angry at him," she said. "Just disappointed in myself for waiting so long to stop hoping. The most powerful goodbyes aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet choices not to stay." Farther east, Janelle sat at a rest stop with Savannah, sipping coffee from a paper cup. They were driving back to North Carolina. A map of the country was taped to the dashboard. "Mom," Savannah asked, "are you okay?" Janelle smiled softly. "I'm not done, but I'm finally free." Meri, meanwhile, returned to her Airbnb before sunrise. She opened her laptop, started a new journal entry, and wrote, "December 24th, the day I stopped needing to be chosen." Then she made herself tea and opened the window to let the cold air in. Robyn didn't leave town. She stayed, but not with Kody. She went to her sister's house, where the tree was small, the lights imperfect, but the laughter real. She didn't explain everything. She just said she needed time. And later, when the kids were asleep and the dishes were done, her sister asked, "Do you still love him?" Robyn paused for a long time before answering. "I love the memory of what I thought we were building. But I don't want to live in memories anymore. Sometimes staying means standing still. But leaving lets you begin again." Back at the house, Kody finally got up from the table. He walked down the empty hallway, past photos of holidays where everyone smiled because they had to, not because they wanted to. He stopped in front of one. Their first Christmas in Vegas. All four wives laughing. Real, unfiltered joy. For a moment, he almost believed it could happen again. But instead of hanging the picture back on the wall, he placed it in a box. Not because he wanted to forget, but because it was time to stop performing nostalgia. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the footsteps from the night before. Slowly erasing every trace of what used to be. As the snow settled outside, the house stayed quiet. No laughter, no movement, just the slow hum of a heater fighting the cold. If the walls could speak, they'd whisper every apology that never came, every truth that waited too long to be said. Kody didn't speak to anyone for 2 days after that night. Christine, Janelle, Meri, Robyn, even Kara had all walked out. The garland still hung from the fireplace, sagging. The Christmas tree still blinked its soft lights, unaware that the family it stood for no longer existed. Dishes sat unwashed. Empty wine glasses lined the mantel like a row of ghosts. He didn't touch any of it. Instead, he wandered the halls like a man walking through a museum of his own mistakes. Each photo on the wall stared back at him like a reminder of the chapters he'd left unfinished. Vegas. Utah. The wedding to Robyn. The groundbreaking at Coyote Pass. He looked at those smiles and realized they weren't invitations anymore. They were memories that didn't belong to him. For the first time in years, Kody had no answer. No plan. No audience. He kept waiting for someone to call, to text, to check in. But no one did. Even the kids, his sons, once full of admiration, had grown into men with boundaries. It wasn't anger now. It was detachment. The kind that doesn't shout or slam doors. The kind that simply says, "We've already left." The loudest rejection isn't hate. It's silence. Not because they despise you, but because they've learned to live without you. On the morning of December 26th, Kody opened the front door and found a small cardboard box sitting on the porch. No note, no label, just a return address from North Carolina. He took it inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside were 3 things. A framed photo of all 5 adults from the early days in Utah, smiling, younger, holding hands, still believing they could make forever last. A manila folder labeled Coyote Pass, Final Ledger. Inside were numbers, signatures, and the full breakdown of the land sale, where every dollar went. And a handwritten letter from Janelle. Kody unfolded it slowly, like it was the last thing he'd ever read. Kody, you asked what comes next. This is my answer. Enclosed is everything I owed you, and everything you owed me. It's clean now. No lawyers. No court. Just math. The photo is a reminder that it wasn't always war. I held on to it because part of me believed we could go back to something good. I don't believe that anymore. But I also don't need to erase the parts of you that were real. I forgive you. Not because you asked for it, but because I want my heart to be light. We're done. And that's not punishment. It's freedom. Janelle. Kody stared at the letter for a long time. His throat tightened. His eyes burned, but no tears came. He just sat there, unmoving, breathing in the silence. Eventually, he folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and walked to his office. In the bottom drawer of a locked cabinet were dozens of old papers, contracts, family budgets, handwritten spiritual marriage agreements, co-ownership notes, child care schedules. He pulled them all out and began burning them, one by one. Not in anger. In acceptance. Because it's one thing to lose a family. It's another to finally admit they're not coming back. That night, he stepped out onto the porch. The cold cut through his sleeves, but he didn't move. Above him, the stars glimmered against the winter sky. No one was home. No one was coming. No cameras. No show. Just Kody, and the weight of a name that no longer meant anything. He whispered into the quiet, I thought I had more time. Across the country, the women he once called wives were writing new beginnings. Christine was helping Michaelty prepare for another baby. She and David were laughing again, cooking together, finding a rhythm that felt natural. Janelle had started looking at new land in Asheville, 10 acres, real soil, real trees, a new dream to plant her roots in. Meri was in Salt Lake City, talking with a publisher about turning her journal into a memoir. She'd already chosen the first line, the day I stopped needing to be chosen. Robyn stayed close by, but not with Kody. She moved into her sister's house for a while. The tree there was small. The lights flickered unevenly. But the laughter was real. She didn't explain everything to anyone. She just said she needed time. And one night, after everyone went to bed, her sister asked, do you still love him? Robyn paused. I love the memory of who I thought he was, she said quietly. But I don't want to live in memories anymore. Kody stayed where he was, alone, surrounded by the quiet hum of a life that had finally stopped pretending to be whole. Sometimes, the people we once led are the same ones who will never follow us again. In North Carolina, Janelle was thriving in a way she never thought possible. No Kody. No co-signers. No emotional contracts disguised as faith. Just quiet mornings, open sky, and soil she could finally call her own. She built her first greenhouse by hand, laughing when she fell in the dirt. She wore overalls now, not for show, but because they made sense. They were real. Practical. Hers. Savannah smiled more these days. She sang while cooking, played music while they planted, and for the first time in over 20 years, Janelle didn't feel like the middle ground between someone else's chaos. She wasn't holding peace together anymore, she was living in it. Back in Utah, Christine had started something new. A podcast. Not about polygamy. Not about Kody. About women who rebuild after complicated endings. She called it Third Act. I spent years being part 2 of someone else's story, she told David. Now I'm writing my own ending. She'd been offered a book deal, too. The editor cried while reading her first chapter. The title came from something Meri once wrote in her journal, I kept waiting for someone to choose me. Then one day, I realized I was the one who had to choose myself. Christine wasn't bitter anymore. She wasn't angry. She was free. Meri, meanwhile, was learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. She used to think solitude meant failure. Now she saw it for what it was, peace earned through survival. There's a difference between being left behind and choosing to walk away first. And then there was Robyn. She had taken off her wedding ring, not out of anger, not even sadness, but out of exhaustion. She kept it in a drawer now, next to a folded napkin with Kody's name written on it in gold marker. The same napkin from their first Valentine's Day together, when he had planned a scavenger hunt around the house. Now, he barely remembered where she lived. Robyn didn't file for separation. She didn't pack a single bag. But she started going to therapy. She started sleeping in a different room. She started calling her sister again. And most of all, she stopped defending Kody, to the world, to her kids, and to herself. Then, something unexpected happened. A brown envelope arrived in Kody's mailbox. No return address. Just a wax seal pressed into the flap, a rose. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. Kody, there's something you need to know before it finds you another way. It's not about the land. It's not about the wives. It's not about Kira. It's about the past, a contract we all forgot about. One that was never filed. Check your safe under the journals. You'll know what to do when you see it. He read it 5 times, trying to make sense of it. Then he went straight to his safe. Behind the leather-bound journals, under an old cloth bag, he found a small sealed envelope. He didn't remember putting it there. Inside was a document, yellowed, dated, and signed by all 4 original wives. It wasn't a legal contract. It wasn't even notarized. But it was real. It was a handwritten promise to hold Coyote Pass in spiritual joint guardianship for their grandchildren. No selling. No dividing. No profit. Just legacy. It had never been honored. But it had been signed by Christine, by Meri, by Janelle, by Robyn. And at the bottom, in bold, slanted letters, by Kody Wayne Brown. A spiritual trust. A vow that wasn't legally binding, but morally unbreakable. He sat back, stunned. The land sale, the one he'd just finalized, the money he'd already spent, it was all in violation of that promise. And the worst part? He didn't even remember signing it. That's how far he'd drifted from the dream he once sold to 4 women and more than a dozen children. You can break a law and get away with it. But breaking a promise? That's what costs you everything. The next morning, Kody's phone buzzed with a text from Robyn. Just one line. You should come over. We need to talk. He didn't shave. He didn't change his clothes. He just grabbed the old trust agreement and drove. Robyn opened the door without a word. No hug. No smile. She turned and walked back into the house, leaving the door slightly open, like a courtroom waiting for witnesses. Kody stepped inside. The place felt foreign, even though he'd lived there. The couch was moved. The curtains were different. The walls were lined with pictures of her kids, none of him. He followed her into the living room. On the coffee table sat a fireproof lockbox, open, with another copy of the trust inside. Robyn didn't look at him when she spoke. I found it last year. I forgot I still had it. When you told me about selling the land, I almost brought it up, but I didn't. Why not? He asked quietly. Because I thought I was wrong, she said. I thought you knew something I didn't. That you had it handled. Kody sat down across from her, holding his copy of the document like a confession. I forgot about it, he said. I truly did. Robyn turned to him. That's not an excuse. You remembered when it was convenient. Selective memory is the weapon of people who rewrite history in their own favor. He stared at her. This changes everything. Robyn shook her head. No, Kody. It doesn't change anything. It just reveals what's already true. You sold the land. You took the money. You made your choices. The damage is done. Kody's voice cracked. What do you want me to do? Robyn sighed. I don't know. But I know what our kids deserve. What our grandkids were promised. This was never supposed to be about us. She handed him another envelope. What's this? He asked. It came yesterday, she said. Addressed to all of us, from an attorney in Flagstaff. Christine's attorney. Kody froze. Christine filed a claim? Robyn shook her head. No. It's not a lawsuit. It's a notice. She's starting a foundation, a nonprofit. The Coyote Legacy Trust. Kody frowned. A what? Robyn continued. It's meant to protect what's left of the land. To reinvest the money from the sale into grants for the grandkids. Education. Housing. Whatever they need. Kody exhaled. That's not legal. It's symbolic. Maybe, Robyn said. But Christine's not doing it alone. Janelle and Meri co-signed it. And some of the kids did, too. He blinked, confused. Which ones? Robyn looked him in the eye. Gabe. Gwendolyn. Logan. Hunter. Kody sat back, silent. The reality sank in slowly. The family he once controlled now moved forward without him. The same land he sold to escape his past had become the legacy that would define his future. Robyn spoke softly. You built a dream on promises, Kody. But promises aren't walls. They crumble if no one holds them up. He didn't answer. He just sat there, the paper shaking slightly in his hands. Sometimes the truth doesn't destroy you all at once. It breaks you in fragments, quietly, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to defend. Robyn stood, walked to the doorway, and turned back one last time. Christine was right, she said. You didn't lose us all at once. You just stopped noticing we were already gone. Kody looked down at the signature lines on the paper, Christine. Janelle. Meri. Robyn. And his own name at the bottom. The same name that used to mean something. He folded the document carefully, placed it back in the box, and whispered to the empty room, I thought I had more time. But time doesn't wait for realization. It only waits for endings.